Alec.
pain begin.
Alec, here we are.
Let the pain commence. Hey Zach, how's it going?
The pain. Man, you
Yeah.
really just let it be known your opinion right out of the gate. You could have loved
I
this
mean, like, it
movie.
wasn't really okay. Okay,
We
so
obviously
yeah,
went into it thinking it could have been great. It was
no,
obviously
that's
one of the things you were thinking. You'll actually
was that what I
notice.
thought? Really?
You'll actually notice the background I have here is like reminiscent of like the old school website design where like the background's
Yeah.
like the same picture over and over, like a
Oh
collage.
yeah, yeah,
I did that with
yeah.
the movie poster with the wolf with the bloody mouth
Okay,
and him with the bloody mouth.
okay.
That's what we got going on. All
So
right. So
yeah, so
if you aren't aware, we spun the wheel last week for a series called Chance Time, which randomly decides a movie for us to watch and review the next week. So here we are. We're
mhm.
talking about Hybrid, which can be watched on Paramount Plus. And what do you think?
Okay, so despite my outlandish, so I didn't like feel anything with this movie except for like confusion.
And a little bit of
Confusion is like
arousal.
confusion is basically the only emotion I can really like. It's not even really an emotion, but that's like the only state of mind I was in the whole time while it wasn't like terrible, but it wasn't good by any means. Like there was a bunch of stuff that was done all very wrong and poorly. Um,
Well, tell me if I'm wrong. It's like
how,
it
how
for
how much nature footage was in this?
yeah.
Like cutaways to nature footage. I was not expecting that. I'll tell you that right now. I was not. That was the last
That's
thing I
true.
expected.
That's true.
As it's like half the runtime of the movie is nothing but
Okay,
like
yeah, I
nature
will say I
side.
somehow expected it to be worse, like
Mm.
production wise. I was thinking Alien Origin almost, and this is definitely a
Yeah,
lot
overall
better than Alien Origin.
overall the production was actually pretty good. Like they were for the most part, as
Mhm.
far as I could tell, they were filming on real sets. There wasn't like a lot of green screen that I came across that I noticed anyway. Um, yeah, no, you got like cheap out with like they're basically just filming in the woods for the finale, which is like not really a big shock. Um, but at least they weren't filming in the woods for like all of it. They actually look like they filmed at like real locations, like probably in Manitoba, like a zoo. That was a real office building. Though, did you know what that was actually the office building for?
Hmm.
You could tell. That was Polaris. Polaris is the automotive company. It's
Okay.
the exact same font. You could even see in some wide shots, you could see that the P had been removed or was missing because there was still a little bit of framework for where that fits in up on the building there.
Okay.
So yeah, it was. I kept laughing at that because I was like, yeah, it's Polaris. Oh no, Olaris. Totally different.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but like the movie was like it wasn't the worst thing ever until like halfway or 2/3 of the way in, and then it just got there were so many like when you got these soldiers involved, and the whole last sequence it was just like
Yeah,
super drawn out and just
it's
super
really
boring. I
bad.
was falling asleep at that
Yeah,
point,
that point was really bad.
but
That part of it, I was
just
I was
nothing.
tuning out
It
at
was
that
giving
point.
me nothing. Like there was at least some sort of like intrigue. It's like a little bit of intrigue in the beginning and a little bit of drama between the characters, and then it just went like, okay, now there were so many
Right.
scenes of him just having these like visions. There was like visions and he's dreaming and he wakes up from the dream and it's just like, yeah, all these shots of wolves
I
doing things.
I don't know if we've watched a movie with a protagonist that talks as little as this character does. I know almost nothing about him. That's the weirdest thing about this
Yeah.
movie. There's like the script feels like it was like 10 pages. Like most scenes for the first half of the movie take place with the evil scientist corporation. And it's all having to do with them. And it's like it's all so strange and like I'm like aren't we supposed to be like following like a hero here? But then it's like most of it is like talking about them and being like, "Oh, we gotta this like concept's got to go to the military, so we got to find him." And then it like cuts to him like running away or whatever, doing whatever, and it's back to them for like double the amount of time, like in offices and just talking on phones
Yeah.
and
And
Yeah.
you had this weird thing with this lady who had the wolf. Okay, so
Yeah.
she had this wolf that then goes on to be part of this transplant for our main character. They transplant the wolf's eyes into this main character, which is the whole plot of the movie. Is that now he has a wolf's eyes, but he's starting to see humans as prey, and he's starting to have these visions, and he's like becoming wolf-like himself.
But I was expecting, so like this was on Sci-Fi. I think this was like a Sci-Fi production. It was a Canadian production. But very lacking in every element I could think of. It wasn't really a sci-fi film, and it wasn't really a horror film. Like it was like it's basically like dipped its toes in each, and then
they tried to do a jump scare at one point. I thought it was funny. It was like
that was
boom,
so stupid.
dramatic noise.
It was so bad. It was so poorly done. Through most of it, I just didn't really understand like what any character's motivation was. Like why was she stringing? She was like really upset. Is it okay? This is not clear to me. Was the main girl? Is that supposed to be like a wolf preserve or something? Is that like what's going on there?
I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of vague about it. It's just like, well, she is a native of native descent and has an affinity for wolves.
She was like overly upset. Like she brings the wolf. So she comes across this wolf who's like injured, and she brings it into the clinic.
Yeah.
And then I think the worst part about this movie is that like it feels like the first half of it is just missing scenes. We're just missing scenes. Like we're missing the scene where she actually brings it to this clinic and then talks to them about it. Because all of a sudden it's like the next day and she's like on the phone and is like, "What did you do with him? I didn't say you could do that. It's the last time I'm ever doing that again."
Yeah, it's like this doctor referred me to this doctor, referred me to this doctor.
And it's like, why? How she brought it to just like, why did she bring it to this clinic? They're not vets. Like, I don't understand like what that's all about.
And then she's like, it shouldn't have died there. It should have died at its home. You know.
It's like, well, then why did you bring it in?
It's
like,
I know, but that is not even the worst part. The worst part is that she's like she kind of falls in love with this main character just because she loves wolves, right? It's just she has this weird thing where she loves wolves, and he's like a wolf now. So
they have zero chemistry.
There's no chemistry. There's no actual connection there. But we just cut from one scene, and then like there's a sex scene happening. No clothes are removed, by the way, but
that was the most PG sex scene I think I've ever seen in my life. It was hardly even a sex scene.
Yeah, and I was expecting that dog in him to come out. You know, some primal, some just pure.
The most primal he gets is towards the end where he's like kills a few people. But like there's also the primal scenes where he just takes his shirt off and like is just running through the city streets. I was like. If you turn the sound off of this movie, you might think this is about like some runner who's just like training with animals.
Yeah, I actually thought there would be like going to be a parkour scene. I was really expecting it to start to like just like vaulting over stuff and jumping across.
There should have been. That would have been fun. It would have been a little bit of levity to it, you know?
Okay, but I can't get over this woman who is just sexually attracted, I believe, to wolves, which is why she's attracted to this man. So
I guess, but
because there's no other connection. Oh no, she said no. This cringy thing that she said is that we both see the world differently.
Yes. Oh my god.
We see the world differently because he has the eyes of a wolf and starting to see humans as prey. She can relate to him because she also sees the world differently.
She sees the world differently because she is like French, Canadian, and Native American, Native Canadian Indian. I don't know. She's North America, so it is an American.
Right,
Indian.
like
she has. So because she's a hybrid too, quote unquote, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's like, oh yeah, I used to reject the native side of me, like that heritage. I rejected that because I thought it was like it made me a monster. But then I came to appreciate it, and I was like. That has like nothing to do with his situation.
Yeah, he does not see the world differently. He was forced into this. He didn't choose to like. He's not like now seeing the world truly.
Which brings up another scene that's missing. So okay, so the whole thing is he's like this guy. The first scene of the movie is like him. We're just really right into it. They throw us right into it. Really, it's just
Yeah.
like hybrid, and it's like him training on a body
Oh
bag.
yeah,
He's really like punching, and it's cut
cut
to these
between
wolves
wolves
hunting,
doing things. Yeah.
stock footage of wolves hunting buffalo or American bison, and so there's that going on. And then scientician lady is talking about like, oh, we transplanted the eyes of a husky into this baboon, and so this baboon has these weird,
Yes.
creepy looking eyes, and all the instead of the doctors, I kind of wanted at least some of the doctors to be like really against it, like, hey, you're meddling in things that you probably shouldn't be messing around with, particularly when you then raised, we're ready for human experimentation next. Like I would have expected some of the scientists to be like, no, that sounds like really against my principles, but everybody's like totally on board. They're like, oh yeah, let's do this, yeah. So cut to back to our main character. He's like a security guard, and there's this guy who keeps smoking on the job, and he's like smoking in this
Oh my
like in a
God.
water treatment facility, and they have all these like dangerous like barrels, like these oil barrels that are just all around him. And he's smoking, and he flicks a cigarette, and it like,
It was
explodes.
so funny. It was so funny. They're like, put that out, man. And he's like, just casually flicks it, and just flames just go up.
Just
Just,
flames right in
it's
front of the
gone.
camera.
It was
So
so
instead of leaving, like a sane human being would be like, well, too bad for him, I guess. He decides to charge in, not knowing if the guy's dead already. He decides to charge in across the field to the water treatment like area, and then he goes in and he gets his eyes scorched out by the flames, I guess.
That's right. It is.
And
Well,
so then
it was like some sort of like fuse box or something that made like a
yeah.
set off and triggered it.
And that was all sort of cut back and forth. Within we had our main girl character talking with this wolf and everything, and her grandfather or dad or whoever
Whoever
guy
he
was,
may be.
talking about like wolves and crap, and they were gonna have some kids come to because he was a real medicine man or something, a part of his
Something
tribe.
or other.
So then we're cutting back to like between back and forth with that, and then that's when the whole wolf subplot comes in where they're like, oh, well, we're looking for candidates for transplant, and we have a wolf and we have a human, and it just cuts to the procedure happening.
Yeah.
It's like we didn't establish any emotional stakes with this character for like, did he make this decision? Did they just force him into it?
Yeah.
Like there needed to have been a scene where maybe they consulted with him, like, hey, we can't get your eyes back. There's no way. The damage is way too severe. But we have this new experimental surgery. Like they didn't have any of that.
No,
it was just all of a
what's
sudden cuts to
even worse
it happening.
is what they cut from was him like a scene with him and his friend,
Yeah.
and he's like, "What can I give you? What can I do for you? What can I give you?" And he's like,
I have my eyes back.
I have my eyes back. And then it's one of those. It was a very emotional moment. It's like because he realized that you can't give him his eyes back. It's very heavy. It's like, oh, I can't do that for him. I wish I could.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
it's just cut. He's in a procedure getting wolf's eyes.
It's just so strange. And then it works immediately. Seems to work like perfectly. And
Yep, and the night vision it looks exactly the same as day vision.
day vision.
Seems
Yeah.
so really effective nighttime vision. But slowly things start to unravel as he goes through it. What I thought was funny is that I thought they were gonna go this whole movie where he like kept having these close calls where he thought about doing something, but then he stopped himself. I was like, he has to do something for it to actually be interesting.
Yeah.
He can't just keep doing this. Like, oh, I'm thinking about doing something, but I stop myself.
Yeah. Or because it keeps cutting to these weird visions of him like as a white wolf, like remembering what being a wolf is like or something, or having these instinctual visions of what being a wolf is like, being with his pack and like doing stuff, and it's like it's so strange and random. Because a lot of times they're just like they just don't really like necessarily. There's no like emotional connection to like what we're supposed to be getting. Like, what's he feeling?
Well, right.
Like towards when he's like the aggressive wolf stuff, like that makes a lot more sense. But like most of the other time, it's just like wolves running around.
Yeah, most of the time it's
So
not
it's
from
like-
a wolf's perspective. It's just footage
Yeah.
of wolves doing things. It's like so
I think-
you're just kind of
Yeah.
It's not like you're in the eyes of a wolf. It's just your wolves doing things.
Right, and so it's like it's very weird because it almost feels like I almost would have taken stock footage. Like it does feel to me that they actually went maybe to a wolf preserve and did filming there. They could have just bought stock footage at a wolf preserve too. I don't really know. It's one or the other. I don't know which, but yeah, it's very strange, very weird. I almost would have preferred like a cheap, goofy like
Yeah.
wolf's perspective cam. Like that would have been more
'Cause
interesting.
otherwise, it's
Probably.
just like, okay, I don't really get what this dream he's having is like conveying, because he's just like wolves doing things, but I guess he's thinking
Yeah,
about doing those things. But I
and that's why he
mean,
went running around in the middle of the night.
and
But
with the neighborhood dogs, yeah.
with the neighborhood dogs, he like goes finds the dogs in an alley, and then he goes and he runs to the zoo, and it's like
Yeah, the place is just called Zoo. You
it's
know.
just called zoo. There's a sign that says the actual name of the
Oh yeah,
zoo,
that's
but like
true.
funnily enough, they just says zoo there.
That's true. In the classic moment where it's like, where she kind of, where could he be, and then
She sees it.
you see the shot of the sign. She's on the right track. She's going to the zoo.
How did she know
I
that?
don't
How could she have
know.
possibly figured that out?
I don't know, but you know what?
Did you just
Another scene they had was where he tells her, he's like, "I want to rip things apart." He says it just like
yeah.
that,
Yep.
and she says, "I can help you with that."
Yeah, I was like, what does that mean? What
And
do you,
th-
what
and
do you
th-
mean?
and that's when she says, "I guess I'm kind of like you, the kind that sees things differently than most people."
It's like the
You
it
missed the
feels
mark.
to me like this is like the first draft of the script and they just sort of ran with it because like there's just a bunch of random stuff that doesn't like so I guess what she meant there is that she can help him like control because there's the spiritual thing that they do where he sort of like channels his inner wolfness or whatever.
And sex.
Well, it was after the sex is when they do it, which is also weird. But there's also that random scene where he's like standing around and like listening to her shower and then just like cuts away from that to like her having showered. And I was like, what was the point of that?
It's that dog.
And I also didn't.
So, so there's also like this random fight they just kind of put between his friend Ash and her. Just it got so heated, and he
super
he
heated.
calls her
Ooh,
Pocahontas.
he does.
Out
Oh
of
yeah,
nowhere.
I forgot about that. It's like damn.
Okay,
No,
and the thing with the bunch of wolves howling. There was like a segment where there was a bunch of wolves howling, and it went on for a while. I was like, please give us a howl, let him howl, but they didn't give it to us. I wanted to hear him go, oh.
Yeah, it would have been great. That would have been great. I would have loved that. But he has like no personality the whole movie.
No.
Like that's what I mean. He's just a black hole of. He doesn't give us anything. Like there's at times he acts like really scared and nervous, but then he just acts like he's dead to the world most of the rest of the time. Like he can't figure out how to feel or something. I don't know. It's very strange. My favorite scene, I think, in the whole movie, though, because it doesn't. I don't know what it was attempting to convey, because it feels like the movie should have gone in a completely different direction because of this one scene, and then it just doesn't. And the scene I'm referring to is when the nurse lady goes into the back into the lab with all the animals, and all the animals have escaped.
Yes.
The monkeys are all like consuming drugs, and they're all like eating the tubes, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, they're gonna start acting aggressive, and like maybe they've got like human intelligence and stuff now, or like the transplant has done weird stuff to them too. So they're gonna all give in. No, it's not really. She just gets really scared about the baboons. The baboons were acting like really normal, like they're just kind of like jumping around, hopping around, having a good time.
I know she was terrified.
She was so scared, and they weren't doing anything aggressive. And I was like, can they do something like mildly aggressive? But like, I understand that it's like, you have to have protections and stuff for the animals in place. You probably can't really make them look aggressive, so they just have to kind of film around them not really being aggressive at all, except that they are.
She's just terrified of their existence because they're not in a cage.
And I was thinking, I was like, oh, maybe there'll be like an animal maybe he came and let them out, and there's gonna be like an animal uprising because he's like giving in to his primal instincts. And then because after that, the apes, and I like that this is the cute shot of her like locking the door, and then it cuts back to the shot of of the hallway, and there's just like a little baboon. Looks like he's like kind of like looks like he wants to come out and play, or sort of he's kind of sitting there. And she's like, oh, and then he shows up behind her, and what does he see? He's like, something's happening.
Yeah, something like that.
And then the next time we see him, it's like he's out in front of the hospital, and he gets along with the Native American lady. And then it's so it was like, what? What did that have to do with anything? Why did we have any of that stuff?
Yeah, it was not. It never had any bearing on anything.
No, it was so weird. That was the jump scare that I remember.
That's right.
He's like just looming behind her all of a sudden. Yeah.
And I do like the military guy. How he wanted to. He was like, "Oh, we got to get on this immediately." And she's like, "Don't you? Shouldn't we wait like more than one hour?
Do some tests." Yes.
he's like, "No, like, this is so important. This is such a freaking edge. The military get everybody with wolves' eyes. I guess." I wanted it to
work. But we haven't done any tests on like anything.
I wanted it to be like after all this stuff unfolded with this guy, he would have been like, "Damn, I already had like half of the military have wolves' eyes now. This is out of hand."
They just think everyone's killing wolves. Far.
But yeah, after this point, it's like the movie is just utter boredom for me. When they have the soldiers going around, there's like so much dead air. This is like very Alien Origin at that point, where it's like nothing happening, just no.
It's just
no
characters
words.
wandering around in the woods. Yeah, that's not really fun to watch. If I've learned anything from watching Red Letter Media review stuff on Best of the Worst, people running around in the woods is like the bane of all B movies' existences. It's just like, oh god, because it's just everything screeches to a halt. Yep. It's just so dull.
It's like
your movie has to be special in a lot of other ways to make that interesting. And unfortunately, this movie did not make it interesting in any way.
Not only is it just like soldiers going around looking, it's him running around with the wolves, and it's this combined with all of his like visions leading up to this too. Like there were so many visions and just footage of wolves. It was like so much at that point.
It felt like half the movie was just stock footage or cut to nature footage of wolves.
It's like, okay, it kind of worked in the beginning, but then it just became, okay, all right, here we go again. It's like, oh, he wakes up in a shock as if he hadn't had this vision 10 times already. Like,
oh my god, what about the insert song?
Yes.
The insert song was like that was probably my favorite.
All about seeing things, right? I wish what were the lyrics.
So bad. It was so bad. It was like they contracted some band to just write this song
about seeing.
I'm feeling and seeing the yeah.
It's all about seeing because of the eyes and all that.
Oh,
okay,
man.
but at the end he disappears.
The end is very strange.
He completely disappears, like actually vanishes out of thin air, and then he's just running in a different spot, and then the girl, the Native American girl, and her grandfather, whatever he is, they're just talking at the end. She's just kind of like watching him run around, just like, that I had sex with that guy.
Yep.
And like, this is where we're at. I don't even know why did he disappear.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then he's just running with the wolves still.
Yep, and that's pretty much the movie.
That's the movie. Oh. What did we learn?
Well, it wasn't like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, but I don't think I'd never want to watch it again because it couldn't achieve levels of so bad it's good. So it was mostly just boring.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. In the beginning, there were elements where it was like so bad it's so good, and then at the end, it was the Alien Origin, just dead air.
Yeah,
bad.
Well, that's what I mean. Like the beginning, the first half was kind of fun to me because it was so confusing. There was just like I said, it felt like there were scenes missing throughout most of the first half of the movie, and I was like, why are all of a sudden we're doing this now? And it's like it feels like I'm just getting rammed around to one plot point to another with no like development. It was like just scenes happened in a sequence, rather than it feeling like there's a natural progression of the plot. It's like, no, this has to happen here. This has to happen now, and we don't understand the character's motivation because this thing has to happen. And it's like, oh, okay.
And so,
I don't even know what to like.
What
What would you rate
score?
this?
I think it's still really, really low to me because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we can find a silver lining here and there, but it's still not like there's nothing about it's like good
It's
that I would commend.
like a 3.
That's kind of where I was at.
It's like a 3, 3.5. It's right around that range. It's pretty bad,
I give it a
and I would
three.
not recommend watching it.
You
I'll give
give
it
it
a
a
3.
three.
Yeah,
Tarqaron
yeah.
score a three.
It was entertaining for the first half, but like after that, it was like to a degree. It was mildly entertaining, but like yeah, it became people running around in the woods, and it got really really bad after that.
I can't even get over the relationship. The fact that
Oh
she
yeah, well yeah, there was
she
no
just couldn't have
relationship.
sex with a wolf, and this is the closest way to do it.
Kind of,
That's what
yeah.
it
And
felt
it
like.
wasn't enough of a horror movie. It wasn't enough of a science fiction movie. Like they started trying to be like, "Have you heard of the lycanthropes?"
That's
No,
true.
and it's like,
He said no, no.
it's like okay, cool. You're boring. Yeah, and then they were talking about like how it's like, oh yeah, there was like this thing, but it's like, but he's not really a lycanthrope because he's not like a wolf. He's not a
No,
werewolf.
no.
And it was like, oh, they like tried to scientize
Oh,
lycanthropy, which is very weird.
and they just had
Um,
so much like medical words, like fluff, like
oh
purposely using
yeah,
big words to like sound
oh yeah,
sophisticated.
that was great. If I had been writing the script, I would have done something to make it probably more like a horror film, and probably would have made it more like he's releasing all the animals. Like I thought when he was gonna go to the zoo, I thought he was gonna like let things loose. There was also hold on, there was also the subplot about the white buffalo. Remember that? They dropped that towards
True.
the beginning.
True.
There's the white buffalo that was born at the zoo, and there's a whole
Yes.
thing around that the medicine man's telling to the kids like, oh, that's like super rare and it's supposed to be mean something. And then so he goes and he sees the white buffalo, and then nothing, and then I don't understand what the point of any of that was because then nothing happened with it. I thought he was like gonna attack it or something, and that would have been cool.
I don't.
It would have been like a dark turn,
Yeah.
and then or something, or like he encounters it, and then it turns out the white buffalo is like some other spiritual creature or something that like
Hmm.
cures it. Like I thought there was gonna be something interesting with any of that,
And I
but
almost skimmed past the fact that this woman still loved him. This woman started loving him after he had bitten someone's throat out, right?
was
Or
it after?
well, no, maybe not fully
No,
after.
he did kill one guy. Yeah,
He killed
immediately
a
after
guy.
he kills immediately after he does that, that's when she has sex with him. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was like all here for it. I guess she just like doesn't value human lives at all, and just like all about the wolves. I want to rip things
Again,
apart. I can help you do that.
it's the thing of him being completely underwritten. Where remember he's captured, and like that one gruff McMilitary like chokes her out, and he said, "Look me in the eye." That was also a really weird scene.
It was.
Everything about that scene was really strange. And then immediately it like cuts to him just like complying, like he's not being strapped down or anything. He's just like, "Yep, sure, I'll have some
Yeah.
tests run on me."
Yeah.
Like it's like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, no, it's like you just get kidnapped.
That's
Your
true.
friends, the people you've been working with, are like getting
That's
choked
true.
out by
It's
these
like
people.
another day at the hospital. Yeah.
It was so yeah, it was very strange. I don't know. I don't understand.
One last thing. Actually, my favorite exchange of dialogue was early on in the movie,
Okay.
where she was one of the nurse women. I think was talking to him as he was like clearly going through something, and
Mm-hmm.
he was like out of it.
Oh yeah.
She's like,
Oh, yeah.
everything's all right. And then she immediately asked, "Is everything all right?" Is the next thing she asked.
Yeah. Everything's all right. Is everything all right?
It's like, I thought it was. You just told me it was.
He doesn't really say anything. He just like he's like writhing in the like in fear and terror in the corner. It's like, yo, no, everything's all right. Everything's all right. He's like writhing in the corner.
Is everything all right? Yeah. No. All right.
Yeah. I just wish there had been if there had been more animals doing more mayhem, it would have been more fun. That to me is more enjoyable.
I like that
It
we at
would've
least
been
got
an
to
enjoyable
see
movie.
some baboons. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't actually expect that to see
Yeah.
animals in this movie, but
Yeah.
and the nature footage would have been good if they didn't just shove it down our throats by the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It did remind me of like the medical stuff for the baboon. There was a movie they watched on Best of the Worst called Shakma, I think, and that had to do with like this killer baboon or something. But the way that they, and this is not probably not very humane, but I think the way that they made the baboon aggressive, and no one was ever really in the room with a baboon, at least not that we could see. The reason I think they made it so aggressive was because they had supposedly they think they had like another baboon that was like in heat, so the male baboons got very aggressive, like through around the doors because they were trying to get to the female baboon. Which is like that's just mean. That's just mean because they're making this thing like tear the sets all apart because he can't get to the female baboon that's like just outside the room. So maybe they could have done that to make it more aggressive. But I don't know how I don't know how humane that really is. So maybe not.
All right, well, that's it. That's Hybrid. Tarqaron scores 3 out of 10.
This movie's was not great.
It's funny because we keep getting these duds on Chance Time, but I mean, some of the other options we had even last time we saw like could have been good. I mean, one other like maybe Pete's Dragon would have been good. The other ones, maybe not. But there are gems in there. We just aren't getting them.
I've never seen Pete's Dragon. I would have liked to have seen that. So.
But here we are, Hybrid. I don't even know the names of the characters.
I don't know the names of any of the characters.
Except Ash is the friend.
Ash is the friend. There was one of the scientist lady actress. It was Bateman, Jason Bateman's sister is who that is.
Okay.
So you can actually see the family resemblance too. She's been in quite a few things. I think she was in like Desperate Housewives or something, and she just directed a movie that was reviewed pretty well like last year. That's what I was reading about her, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I think the love interest girl was in the Twilight movies. She was like some bit character in that, or some like some no name in those. Or I think she had a name, but she was in. I think she was part of Jacob's family. So
I feel you.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
All right.
Thanks for watching. What video would you recommend our viewers watch?
Go check out a review of Doolittle. Yeah, Doolittle.
Now, how did we score that? Is this one coming better than Doolittle?
Yeah, I think it does. That's.
It's close, I think.
Doolittle was more annoying, which is what made it worse, I think. It was more like offensive to the sensibilities. This was just dull and boring. So
yeah, I mean, Doolittle's bad in spite of having like a budget to not be bad, right?
Oh, it had a pretty big budget for it to be as bad as it was. Yeah.
This is like not as bad as you might expect from this budget. So
I'd be shocked if they spent more than like $300,000 shooting this. They probably didn't spend anywhere near that. So.
Oh, yeah, check that out. Okay.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, hit the notification bell, and click links in the description for our social medias.
All right.